Level 1. The child. You're 7 years old. You heard the door close before anyone knocked. Nobody believed you. Your mother smiled the way adults smile when they don't have a better explanation. Your father checked the lock and said nothing. But the door opened 30 seconds later and your uncle walked in, stomping snow off his boots, and everyone looked at you like you'd done something impossible. You hadn't. You'd just been paying attention. Everyone else stopped paying attention a long time ago. The word the doctors use is congenital, present at birth, confirmed before your first birthday. Your parents nodded in the office and drove home without the radio on. You didn't know any of that at the time. You just knew the world didn't look the way other kids described it, but it sounded better, richer, more layered than anything they seemed to notice. Your school has a resource room, Braille materials, a teacher named Mrs. Ellison who speaks to you slightly too slowly, like the problem is the signal and not the receiver. You learn to read with your fingertips faster than the other kids learn with their eyes. That bothers some of them. You notice that too. You notice everything. A boy named Marcus tries to startle you near the water fountain one Tuesday, runs up fast from the left, stamps his foot hard at the last second. You don't flinch. You heard him coming from the end of the hallway. He doesn't try it again. Level 2. The teenager. You're 14. You walk to school alone. Your parents stopped offering when you were 11. Every time they came with you, you arrived knowing more about the route than they did. Third house on Maple has a loose aluminum gate that clicks twice on windy days. The bakery on the corner starts its exhaust fan at 6:47 a.m. The crossing guard at 5th whistles through a gap in his front teeth when traffic is heavy. He doesn't know he does it. You built a map from sound, more detailed than anything printed on paper. At school, they call it a gift. Counselors, specialists, well-meaning adults who say things like remarkable compensatory ability and extraordinary adaptation. You nod. You've learned that nodding gets the conversation over faster. It isn't a gift. It's just what you did with what you were given. There's a difference. One evening, your older sister falls asleep with the TV on. Some action film, explosions, a hero who sees everything from rooftops. She wakes up and says, "Sorry, you probably can't even." You tell her exactly what happened in the last 20 minutes, every line, every sound cue, every scene. She stares at you. You've already moved on. Level 3. The young adult. You're 19. You got into university on academic merit, not a special program, not as a featured story, on grades. Your roommate the first week keeps rearranging things. Coffee mug moved 6 inches left, desk lamp shifted, bag dropped in the center of the floor instead of against the wall. He thinks he's being subtle. He's testing you the way people always test you, not out of malice, out of fascination, like you're a puzzle they haven't solved yet. On day 5, you ask him calmly to stop. He looks startled. You tell him you know where everything is. You've always known where everything is. And the one thing that actually inconveniences a blind person isn't the dark. It's people who rearrange your dark without asking. He never moves anything again. He becomes the best roommate you'll ever have. You study pre-law, not because someone told you to, because you figured out early that the most powerful tool in any room isn't the one people can see. A professor named Dr. Osai calls on you twice in the first week, maybe expecting hesitation. You answer both times without pausing. He doesn't call on you differently after that. Good. That's all you ever wanted. To be called on the same way.
Level 4. The accident. You're 22, and here is where everything changes. You're crossing an intersection you've crossed 400 times. You know this corner, the signal pattern, the traffic rhythm, the gap between the bus route and the delivery trucks on Tuesday mornings. But a driver runs a red light, and the world, already dark, goes completely silent. You wake up in a hospital bed 2 days later, not dead, not paralyzed, but something shifted. The neurologist spends 40 minutes explaining it in language you don't fully process because you're still trying to understand why the room sounds wrong. Too close, too layered. He uses words like hyperacuity and neural reorganization. He looks uncertain as he says them, like he's reading from a map with missing sections. You lie in the bed and listen to a conversation happening in a hallway 40 feet away, a nurse asking about medication dosage, a man crying very quietly in the room next door, trying to hide it, a fly circling the ceiling light for the past 11 minutes. You don't tell the doctor any of this. Not yet. Level 5. The realization. You're 23, back in your apartment, and everything is different in a way that has no language yet. You can hear a heartbeat if someone stands close enough, not metaphorically, literally. You stand near your sister and hear the rhythm before she speaks. You know she's nervous before she says a word. You can hear structural vibrations, the building settling, the pipes behind the walls, the difference between an elevator running normally and one with a fraying cable that maintenance hasn't noticed yet. You report it to the building manager. He looks at you like you're describing a dream. The inspection finds the cable. It gets replaced. He never asks how you knew. You start testing the edges of it the way a scientist would, the way you would. You're still a law student. You think in evidence and argument. What can you verify? What can you replicate? What has to be ruled out before a conclusion becomes real? The conclusion, once you stop avoiding it, is this. You hear things no human being should be able to hear. Level 6. The first night. You're 24. You don't decide it the way it happens in films. No dramatic moment, no symbol against a full moon, no speech to an empty room. You just walk out of your building at 11 p.m. because 3 blocks away you heard something that didn't fit. Irregular footsteps, a voice dropping below the range someone uses when they want to be heard, a second heartbeat running faster than it should be. You walk toward it. No plan, no costume, just a white cane you've carried since childhood, and a perception of the world that no one else on that street shares. You stop the mugging by knowing exactly where everyone was standing before they knew you were there. You walk home. You don't sleep. You sit in your kitchen and listen to the city breathe and understand for the first time that the thing Mrs. Ellison called compensatory ability was never actually a replacement for sight. It was something else entirely, something that sight, for most people, drowns out completely. Level 7. The cost. You're 26, 2 years of this, and here is what no one tells you about a life built on hearing everything. You hear everything. The couple upstairs arguing at 2 a.m. about money. The elderly man on the second floor talking to someone who isn't there anymore. His wife's name was Margaret. She's been gone 8 years. The child 4 buildings down who cries without sound. The specific pattern of someone who learned early that crying loudly brings the wrong kind of attention. You cannot turn it off. You build routines, ear protection for the subway, white noise in the apartment, a route to the university that avoids the construction site where the jackhammers hit a frequency that makes your skull ring for hours. The first time it almost breaks you is a Tuesday, a pattern you've never cataloged, takes you 40 minutes to locate it, another 20 to accept what it is. A fire, 6 floors up, 3 streets over, not yet visible, not yet loud enough for anyone else on the street. You call it in. 11 people are evacuated before the smoke reaches the lower floors. You hang up the phone and sit in the silence you manufactured for yourself and understand something you can't unlearn. You cannot ignore it. Not anymore. Not ever again. You were given this. That means it's yours to carry.
Level 8. The discipline. You're 29, law degree, civil rights firm, disability cases specifically. Not by accident. You know the system from both directions. The child you got spoken to too slowly. The adult called remarkable instead of capable. The gap between accommodation and equality is something you can measure in lived seconds. At night you're still out there, more precise now, less reactive, more deliberate. You found a trainer, a woman named Doris, former military, teaches close quarters navigation to law enforcement. You told her you were blind. She said she knew. She'd been watching you move for 10 minutes before you spoke. She trains you without adjusting her expectations downward. You respect her immediately. You develop a system. Before you move, you build the room in your head, every surface, every person, every weight and breathing pattern. You move like someone reading a map that's updated in real time, half-second increments, and never lies. You don't think of yourself as a hero. That word belongs to a cleaner story with a cleaner arc. You think of yourself as someone who can't walk past a sound that needs addressing. Level 9, the name. You're 33. You didn't choose it. The city gave it to you the way cities name things they can't explain. The echo. A journalist used it first, a piece connecting incidents that didn't link on paper but connected acoustically if you knew what to listen for. She was close to the truth, not all the way, close enough that you read it and felt something. Not pride, not fear. Recognition. A detective named Celise has been looking for you for 2 years. Not to arrest you, she's smarter than that. One evening you let her find you. She sits across from you on a bench near the river and says, "I don't know what you are." You tell her, "Someone who hears things that need responding to." She thinks about that. "Can you work with us?" The river sounds cold, a boat moving upstream, engine slightly mistimed. Her heartbeat is steady, which means she's telling the truth, or she's learned to control it so well the distinction barely matters. "Sometimes," you say. Level 10, the question. You're 41. A kid finds you one afternoon near the waterfront, maybe 13. He doesn't know who you are. He just sees someone with a cane sitting very still, facing the water. He sits down without asking. That takes either no manners or a lot of confidence. You decide it's confidence. He's quiet for almost a full minute. Then he asks, "Do you actually hear things other people can't?" You don't answer immediately. You think about Mrs. Ellison speaking too slowly, Marcus who tried to startle you and failed, the hospital room where the world got louder than it had any right to be, the Tuesday fire, the 11 people who went home to their families because of a sound you couldn't ignore. You ask him instead, "What do you hear right now?" He pauses. Then he starts describing the waterfront in a way that's too precise for someone just sitting still. The footsteps on the dock, the cable tension on the bridge upstream, the argument happening in the parking lot behind you, too far away for anyone else on this bench. You listen to him describe a world most people can't access, and then you tell him the only thing that has ever been true. You don't choose what you're given. You choose what you build from it. He stays quiet for a long time after that. You stay on the bench until the light changes, or doesn't. The distinction was never something your world tracked anyway. The city hums around you, layered, constant, alive in frequencies no one taught you to hear. You just never stopped listening.